Welcome back to Pokemon episode summaries. Today, I'm doing episode 385. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow run. The episode begins with Ash and the gang arriving at a snowy part of the Isabay Island on their way to Swarovski Town so that they could take the ferry there to Sutopolis City. It was very snowy, and Brock had mentioned that he had heard from some people in the last town they were in that the area they were approaching was due to have a blizzard soon, but nonetheless, they continued on. Eventually, May asked Brock how much fucking longer they had until they reached Swarovski Town, leading Brock to state that they should go to Swarovski Town later, since he was able to find a Pokemon Center nearby thanks to his guidebook, and suggested that they go rest there, especially if a blizzard was coming. When hearing that the Pokemon Center was nearby, Max instantly got excited to finally get someplace warm and out of the snow, while Ash got excited to get an opportunity to prepare for his Sutopolis gym match. Soon enough, Brock spots the Pokemon Center up ahead, knowing that it was close, and as Ash observed that the Pokemon Center was just down a hill, he got really excited and rushed towards it as the others followed, and a very giggly Pokemon happily watched them from behind a tree, this Pokemon being Snorunt. Ash and the gang then went inside the well-put-together Pokemon Center, and Ash and the gang greeted Nurse Joy and asked if it was possible for them to stay overnight at the Pokemon Center and to wait out the upcoming blizzard that was likely coming soon, and Nurse Joy agreed, and was about to ask if any of their Pokemon needed to be examined when Brock interrupted her, starting to flirt with her. Just then, though, Brock was stopped from flirting before Max could even drag him off, as a Pokemon used Icy Wind on him, and Ash and the gang immediately looked to see the culprit, which was a Snorunt, smiling on the floor nearby, the same Snorunt from earlier. While Brock complained about how cold he was, literally being frozen, like actually frozen, Snorunt walked forward, seemingly wanting attention, so Ash scanned it with his Pokedex to learn more about it, and May stated that she found it really cute and adorable, and Snorunt giggled at this. Nurse Joy then greets Snorunt, revealing that she actually knew it, and she introduces Ash and the gang to it, explaining that a lot of Pokemon visit her Pokemon Center by themselves, including this Snorunt. May asks how long Nurse Joy has known it, and Nurse Joy vaguely replies that she's known it for quite a while, and she also knew that it was quite the prankster. Particularly, it liked to steal things from people who visited the center just for fun, and right as Nurse Joy said this, Snorunt went up to Ash's backpack, which was on the floor, because he set it down because he was relaxing and all that, and Snorunt immediately started going through Ash's backpack and pulled out his badge case. Ash was angry at this, but Nurse Joy told Ash not to worry, since Snorunt did shit like this all the time, and it just liked to play jokes on people. However, Snorunt then walks away with Ash's badge case, and this makes Ash completely enraged, as Nurse Joy simply laughed nervously, telling Ash not to worry once again, saying that Snorunt always returned any items it took once it got bored with them, and got bored with the prank it was currently pulling, so just insisted that Ash was just gonna have to wait a while until the prank finished, though Ash retorted that he was not willing to wait, since he worked hard for all those badges, and would not allow for Snorunt to take them, or just play with them. Like, they were his, he wasn't gonna let just anyone take them, so he decided to send out Corfish to help him get his badge case back. Having Corfish do so by chasing Snorunt down as it ran off, and he joined the chase as well, along with having Pikachu join, as a third member of the chase. Not wanting Ash to cause some damage by running, Brock suggests that he, May, and Max run after Ash, Pikachu, Corfish, and Snorunt as well, and they do, and Nurse Joy decides to follow as well, so as to guard her center from damage. Anyways, as everyone gave chase, Snorunt happily ran down the hallway, opening the badge case and admiring the 7 badges inside. But since it wasn't watching where it was going and was too focused on the badges, it reached a dead end and turned around nervously, fearing that there'd be people behind it, and sure enough, Pikachu and Corfish were right behind it, quickly followed by everyone else, and Ash then demanded that Snorunt return his badges. Much to Ash's surprise, Snorunt pulled out the stone badge from the case and held it forward, willing to give up the stone badge without any trouble, leading May to smile and comment how cute Snorunt was after all, and Max commented that Nurse Joy was right. Snorunt was going to give the badges back, so Ash leans down and holds out his hand to take the stone badge, thanking Snorunt, as Snorunt giggles and tosses the stone badge up, freezing it with Icy Wind in midair. Ash did manage to catch the now frozen stone badge, though it turns out that this was merely just a distraction from Snorunt. It was willing to give up 1 badge, so long as it didn't have to give up the other 6, and now that Ash was distracted, trying to unthaw the ice from his stone badge, and was trying to get over how cold it was, Snorunt shuts the badge case and tucks it away inside of its cloak thing, and it then uses Double Team, making everyone confused as to what Snorunt was the real Snorunt, especially Max and May. Since Ash couldn't tell what Snorunt revealed, though, he got an idea, simply telling Pikachu and Corfish to tackle all the copies, to get rid of all the copies to reveal the real one, but just then, all the copies disappear. While this did reveal the location of the real Snorunt, Corfish and Pikachu had smashed into each other head-on by this point, by accident, since, they were heading for the Snorunt, but now that their targets were gone, they ended up crashing into each other instead. With Pikachu and Corfish down, Snorunt took the opportunity to run the fuck away into another room in the Pokemon Center, and Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy didn't see where it went, since Ash was too busy tending to his injured Corfish and Pikachu, making sure they were alright. Nurse Joy then mentions that Snorunt took playing around and doing pranks too far quite a bit, but it had never gotten to this point, where Snorunt would just refuse to give back the item, even when the trainer practically begged it to, and wondered why Snorunt wasn't giving back the badges. Nonetheless, though, Ash simply looked at his stone badge and declared that he would get all the badges back no matter what, in a timely manner. Meanwhile, Team Rocket happened to be going down the same path that Ash and the gang were going down earlier, through the snow, and they were very cold, tired, and starving. After hours of walking through the snowy area, Jessie eventually got so tired that she collapsed to her knees and began to rant about how Ash and the gang shouldn't even have went this way in the first place, because then they wouldn't have had to go this way. Although James just tries to ignore Jessie, and Meowth does the same as they continue on and notice the Pokemon Center up ahead. James runs back to Jessie and points it out, And Jesse immediately gets cheered up, declaring that the Pokemon Center has to have food. Meowth and James were excited about this as well, and all three of them cheered as Wobbuffet popped out his Pokeball, the three as well, promising that they were finally going to not be hungry anymore by stealing food from the center. Meanwhile, back in the Pokemon Center, Corphish and Pikachu had recovered, and they joined the search with Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy, trying to find Snorunt. They searched for quite a while and started to get frustrated, wondering where Snorunt could have possibly went off to, when suddenly they stopped for a little break while they were in the hallway, and Pikachu noticed Ash's knuckle badge lying on the floor nearby and pointed out to Ash as Ash kneels down and grabbed it, leaving Brock to state his belief that Snorunt might be returning the badges one by one, displeasing Ash. Even though he was happy to have his knuckle badge back, he'd rather just get all the badges back in one fell swoop if he could. May wondered where all of the other badges could be, as did everyone else, when suddenly Corphish gets angry as fuck out of nowhere and rushes off, leaving Joy to state her belief that Corphish may know where Snorunt was hiding. Maybe it could sense it or some shit. So knowing this, Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy chased Corphish down the hall, and eventually Corphish led them into the kitchen of the Pokemon Center. Upon entering the kitchen, Max noticed that it seemed empty, and this led May to wonder if Corphish was just hungry and wanted to go to the kitchen, because that could explain why it was angry too. It was essentially just hangry. But Joy doubted this, saying that Snorunt liked to hide in the kitchen sometimes, when it ran away with arbitrator stuff, though not for nearly as long. Anyways, Snorunt still didn't reveal itself, which made Ash impatient and frustrated, as he yelled throughout the kitchen, demanding Snorunt to show itself, since he knew it was there, even though he was bluffing. Snorunt doesn't come out, so Ash yells for it again, demanding it to give his badge case back, when suddenly, not Snorunt, but Team Rocket showed themselves from behind some boxes, carrying and eating several pieces of food, such as bread. Wobbuffet then popped up its Pokeball, revealing itself as well, and it's revealed that Team Rocket came out of their hiding place in the boxes because they thought that Ash and the gang were accusing them of stealing the badges. Because they didn't know that Snorunt had taken them, so they thought that, Ash and the gang had caught them since they were calling out thieves. And they also wondered how Ash and the gang could have known where they were hiding, and instantly deny any involvement with stealing the badges, adding that they weren't doing anything wrong aside from just stealing some food from the Pokemon Center because they were hungry, and they requested to be left alone so they could finish eating, although me and Brock point out that they were stealing the Pokemon Center's food without permission, so that was a goddamn crime. So even if they didn't steal the badges, they still deserved to be punished. Before Ash and the gang could punish Team Rocket, though, Snorunt then peeked out from behind a box, revealing that it was in the kitchen this whole time, so Corphish did have a sense for it. Ash was the first one to notice it, and ordered Corphish and Pikachu to join him in chasing Snorunt around the room to try and forcibly take the badge case back from Snorunt. And they all run around the room rapidly, much to Max, May, Brock, and Nurse Joy's shock, with Nurse Joy scared that they would trash the Pokemon Center. As for Team Rocket, they were very angry at the thought of being upstaged by Snorunt and ignored. They basically wanted to be seen as threats, I guess, even though they tried to prove themselves innocent before. They realized that their calling was to be hated by Ash and the gang, so the fact that Snorunt was being focused on instead of them pissed them off, and they started shouting to get Ash's attention, while still holding the food. They don't manage to get Ash's attention, but they were just happy to get anyone's attention, as Nurse Joy focuses her attention on them, scolding them for stealing the center's food. Just then, though, as Snorunt was running away from Ash, Corphish, and Pikachu, it got angry at the fact that the three of them wouldn't let up and quit chasing it, and decided to attack them by using an Icy Wind. Although Ash, Corphish, and Pikachu simply just ducked to dodge, meaning that the Icy Wind actually managed to hit Team Rocket instead, freezing them instantly into icicles. Ash, Pikachu, and Corphish then get up from ducking and immediately go after Snorunt again, as Snorunt took the opportunity to try and run away, now that Ash and the gang were distracted by the Icy Wind, but Snorunt saw that they really weren't affected by it. Since no one was focusing on Team Rocket yet again, they simply just focused on freezing themselves and shattering the ice around them, and they managed to. Even though Team Rocket were free, though, they were still angry, both about the fact that they were frozen by Snorunt to begin with, and about the fact that they were ignored once again. So they showed it, demanding attention once more, but Meowth shuts them up and demand that they take advantage of not being noticed, and suggests that they try and escape the Pokemon Center with the food, reminding Jesse and James of how hungry they were, and he suggests that they couldn't even make proper comebacks if they got attention from someone, since they were so hungry. Jesse and James agree, and were about to leave the Pokemon Center with the food, but just their luck, Nurse Joy then notices them, demanding that they return the stolen food and put it down on the ground. Snorunt happened to agree with Nurse Joy. Maybe it, liked her a little bit or something, because it did like to hang out at the Pokemon Center, and wanting to save the food, Snorunt runs past Ash, Corphish, and Pikachu, and uses a headbutt and a tackle combined on Team Rocket, making everyone confused as to why the Snorunt had helped them out. Although May points out that the headbutt had made Team Rocket drop the food, so she suggests that Ash do something to send Team Rocket blasting off. Ash nodded and told Corphish to use Crab Hammer, which sends Team Rocket flying. But thankfully, they didn't end up blasting off and destroying a hole in the center or some shit by destroying a wall, as right before they blasted off, Snorunt opened a window so that Team Rocket could blast off outside. Once Ash and the gang had seen Team Rocket fly off into the distance outside the center, Nurse Joy thanked Ash and Snorunt, and Ash thanked Snorunt for his help and complimented it, admitting that it was a decent battler, and Max complimented Snorunt as well, saying the same thing, and also adding that Snorunt probably helped since it loved Nurse Joy in the Pokemon Center or some shit. Snorunt nods, confirming that it did love the Pokemon Center, and it then pulls out Ash's badge case, seemingly because it now respected Ash for helping it get rid of Team Rocket and saving the Pokemon Center, and Snorunt holds the badge case up, motioning to give it back to Ash, leaving Ash surprised that Snorunt was actually willing to just return it like that, and he thanks Snorunt, as May commented that Snorunt was very sweet and cute, after all, for being nice and giving back the badge case. Ash then holds his hand out for Snowrun to place the badge case, but much to Ash's surprise, Snowrun actually wasn't done pranking him, as it only did this to increase the intensity of the prank, because now that Ash was super in awe of the Snowrun, and Ash liked the Snowrun now, it only made it more satisfying when Snowrun released another Icy Wind to freeze Ash in his place into an icicle, and then giggled a little bit, jumping out of a window, escaping with the badge case, leaving Brock to state that Snowrun must not be bored yet, and it wanted to keep pranking Ash to a more extreme level this time. Since Snowrun still had the badge case with it, Ash was desperate to get it back, so he managed to brute force his way out of the ice sculpture and jumped out of the window after Snowrun, as May, Max, and Brock scolded Ash for that reckless stunt, as jumping out of a fucking window could be very dangerous, but Ash just ignores them as he runs down the snowy path, determined to get Snowrun. Even though May, Max, and Brock just called Ash reckless, they didn't want him to get into a whole bunch of trouble, so they went to go jump out of the window after Ash, although Joy stopped them as she pointed to the dark sky out of the open window, telling them that a huge blizzard was forming, just as Brock had been told before, and stated that this huge blizzard storm would make it way too dangerous to go outside. Brock realized how severe the blizzard likely would be, and they immediately got worried about what would happen to Ash in the blizzard, so even though Nurse Joy just told them to stay inside, they did the opposite, going outside after Ash in an attempt to warn him about the incoming blizzard, to try and get him to come back. And Pikachu decides to come as well. Although, thankfully, they don't jump out the window, at least. They decide to go out the door, knowing that jumping out the window would be a little too reckless. Even though Nurse Joy was scared of the blizzard, she didn't want to be responsible for Brock, May, Max, and Ash getting injured in the storm, so she reluctantly follows out after them as well. Meanwhile, Snowrun happily hopped up a hill and stopped at the top of the hill as Ash continued to follow it. Eventually, Ash caught up to Snowrun, leading Snowrun to try and piss Ash off to scare him away by hopping around and dancing a little bit. Although it happened to jump on a piece of ice right at the edge of the hill, and this piece of ice was very fragile already, so when Snowrun put all its force on it, dancing around, this caused the piece of ice to break off, sending Snowrun sliding down the hill. As Snowrun lost control, and by sliding down rapidly, Ash got frightened for the Snowrun, even though he didn't like it that much, because he was just like that. He liked pretty much any Pokemon. He jumped towards Snowrun, going down the hill after it, and he managed to grab a hold of it and slid down the mountain on his butt, cradling Snowrun in his hands, although Ash was sliding down out of control as well. Regardless, though, Ash tried to comfort the Snowrun, assuring it that he wouldn't let Snowrun get hurt, making Snowrun shocked that Ash was caring for it. But Ash continued to promise that he would not let go of Snowrun, ever. He would put his own life behind Snowrun's. Just then, though, Ash notices a large rock formation up ahead and spins his body, turning it so that his back was facing the rock. And although Ash's back did strike the rock hard, because of this, Snowrun, since it was, in Ash's arms, which wasn't facing the rock, Snowrun was entirely protected and didn't get hit by the rock whatsoever. Although Ash's back was sore, he was glad that he at least protected Snowrun. Although Ash had landed so hard on the snow that he literally flipped around when he hit the rock and fell unconscious, with Snowrun also being knocked out of his hands as it hit the snow. Though, thankfully, Snowrun barely was even injured, because it fell like, 2 feet, and it immediately rushed to Ash and tried to wake him up, but he didn't move, much to Snowrun's dismay, as it seemed to like Ash at least a bit now, after it had saved it. Snowrun then got extremely worried, not just because Ash was knocked out, but because the blizzard was starting. Meanwhile, back with Brock, May, and Max, they noticed that the storm was starting as well, so they rushed back to the Pokemon Center with Nurse Joy and Pikachu, where Corphish was waiting for them. Immensely disappointed that they couldn't find Ash, even after a while of searching, and they couldn't find Snowrun either. Joy then looked out the window and noticed that the snow was falling extremely hard now, and the wind was beginning to pick up, and asked Brock, Max, and May if they'd had any luck, since they hadn't informed Nurse Joy that they failed to find Ash and Snowrun yet, although they finally do, shaking their heads. Brock then stated that one of the reasons why they couldn't find Ash or Snowrun was because the blizzard had started, and it was very hard to see anything in the thick snow. So Nurse Joy, even though she was worried about Ash and Snowrun, suggested that they would just have to wait until the snowstorm came to an end. Max, Pikachu, and Corphish were skeptical though, as they really wanted to save Ash, and they all looked at each other, immensely worried that something could have happened to him. Meanwhile, we then see how bad the snow was blowing in the area, before cutting to Ash, who finally becomes conscious and finds himself in a snowy cave with Snowrun, who was watching him. Ash then looked out the cave entrance and saw how bad the blizzard had gotten, so Ash instantly thanked Snowrun for taking him to safety, despite this cave not being the best cave, since it was pretty small. He was just impressed that Snowrun had taken him to safety, outside of the storm. Coming to this conclusion because, who else could have taken him to safety if Snowrun was the only one by him? Although, just to be sure that Snowrun saved him, Ash continued to look out and see the blizzard, as he asked Snowrun if it brought him to safety. And Snowrun nods, finally confirming this, so Ash thanks it a second time. Ash then told Snowrun that they would probably have to stay in the cave for a while, until the blizzard subsided, although Snowrun barely even heard this, as it actually seemed to like Ash for real now, after it had thanked it again, and it decided to pull out an apple that it had with it somehow, maybe hidden in its cloak thing, and it gave it to Ash. Even though Snowrun was smiling brightly though, Ash was reluctant to take the apple, refusing, since he believed that Snowrun was simply just trying to trick him again. And he thought Snowrun might even want to use another Icy Wind on him. However, Snowrun simply shook its head in disagreement, assuring Ash that he didn't intend to trick it this time. As Snowrun continued to shake its head non-stop, Ash was eventually convinced that Snowrun meant no harm, so Ash officially took the apple and took a bite of it. Ash very much enjoyed how tasty the apple was, But he felt guilty taking the entire apple for himself, so he only took a bite and then offered the rest to Snowrunt, who happily ate it, thankful for Ash. Then Snowrunt and Ash looked outside to see the blizzard only getting worse instead of calming down, and as Ash sees this, he remembers his friends and realizes that they must be getting worried about him, and knew that it would probably be best that they leave the cave as soon as they weren't going to fucking die the second that they left. Snowrunt then gives Ash 2 more apples that it somehow had stored in its little pouch thing, and Ash was grateful, although it seems as though these apples were a distraction, because as soon as Snowrunt got all up in Ash's face, it managed to snatch his hat off of him, leading Ash to believe that Snowrunt did just want to trick him again after all. And Ash was so confused that he couldn't even react when he saw Snowrunt walk out of the cave into the blowing blizzard, taking his hat with him. Anyways, after leaving Ash behind, Snowrunt walks through the storm, braving the terrible conditions, and eventually it makes it back to the Pokemon Center and hands May Ash's hat. This revealed that Snowrunt actually hadn't played another trick on Ash. It merely just took his hat so that it could find its way back to the Pokemon Center and basically let everyone know that Ash had to be rescued. Because, he couldn't take Ash back to the Pokemon Center himself because he was too small. Upon seeing Ash's hat, Max asked Snowrunt if it knew where Ash was, and Snowrunt nodded, confirming this, just as Brock happened to look out the window and see that the blizzard had stopped. So since the blizzard had stopped, they would have no problem going after Ash. So Nurse Joy asked Snowrunt to lead them to Ash, and Snowrunt smiled, obliging. So Snowrunt immediately went out of the Pokemon Center and offered to escort Brock, May, Max, and Nurse Joy to Ash. Although Nurse Joy stopped it, explaining that they should use snowmobiles to make the trip faster. So, with that, Nurse Joy gets on one snowmobile, putting Pikachu and Snowrunt on the back, and Brock, May, and Max get on a snowmobile as well, and they very much enjoy the snowmobile ride. Eventually, after some speeding on the snowmobiles, Snowrunt had directed May, Max, Brock, and Nurse Joy to the cave where he had left Ash, and Brock, May, Max, and Nurse Joy spotted him and waved to him, greeting him. And Ash greeted them all back as he came out of the cave, and May, Max, Brock, and Nurse Joy got off their snowmobiles, and May gave Ash his hat back, and Ash also put on his jacket that he had took off in the cave to try and use it to, warm up his arms. But then May, Max, and Brock provided Ash with an actual jacket, not just like his little vest jacket, the one that they were all wearing, as you can see in the pictures, because it was cold as fuck, and they needed a more warm jacket. Ash then realized that Snowrunt didn't trick him, and instead just tried to help him out by giving his friends his hat so they would come and find him, and this led him to explain to Nurse Joy, Max, May, and Brock about what Snowrunt had done for him, which was take him to this small cave to wait out the storm when he was passed out, and stated his belief that Snowrunt liked him now, leading Max to ask if Snowrunt had gave Ash his badges back yet, noting that if Snowrunt really did like him, then he should have gave back the badges, although Ash denies this, leading Nurse Joy to scold Snowrunt, saying that this time its little pranking games have gone on long enough, and Joy demands that Snowrunt give Ash his badges back, and Ash politely asks Snowrunt to give Ash his badges back. Although Snowrunt seemed a bit sad, not wanting to give the badges back, according to Nurse Joy. That's at least what she thought. But just then, this whole conversation with Snowrunt was interrupted as 2 large hands came out of nowhere and grabbed both Pikachu and Snowrunt, which was very easy for the 2 hands, since Snowrunt was sitting on top of Pikachu. The hands then retracted, revealing that it was Team Rocket who had launched them, as Chimecho was currently out with them as well, and Team Rocket simply laughed as they took Snowrunt and Pikachu out of the mechanical hands and put them in 2 small purple boxes that were locked. Nurse Joy was especially annoyed that Team Rocket was attacking for the second goddamn time this episode, technically, and asked why they just wouldn't stay gone, leading Team Rocket to do their motto, doing it with a skiing and Christmas theme, as Wobbuffet popped out of his Pokeball to join in with earmuffs, and Chimecho joined in as well, and Team Rocket then explained their plan, saying that they were going to take both Pikachu and Snowrunt, though there was no boss fantasy, weirdly, so maybe they were just going to take it to sell it this time, probably. Ash and the gang instantly demanded that Team Rocket give back Pikachu and Snowrunt, but Team Rocket obviously refused. So Ash told Pikachu to try its best to escape by using Thunderbolt, but Meowth just laughed as he explained Thunderbolt wouldn't work since the box was electric-proof. Snowrunt then tries to escape using Icy Wind, but Jessie simply laughs at that, saying that they made the boxes ice-proof as well, knowing that Snowrunt would like to try and escape, just like Pikachu. But much to Team Rocket's shock, Jessie's sentence was cut off because of her shock when they all realized that they actually did make the cages ice-proof because Snowrunt actually managed to break free from the box cage by using its Icy Wind, leading Jessie to angrily question James and Meowth how Snowrunt could have possibly escaped, since James and Meowth were the ones that had designed the boxes, leading James and Meowth to nervously explain that even though they thought they added the ice-proof feature, they must have forgot. Seeing Team Rocket distracted, Nurse Joy ordered Snowrunt to use another Icy Wind to try and blast Team Rocket off, having faith that Snowrunt would listen to her because it liked the Pokemon Center, and Snowrunt did listen as he used an Icy Wind, but just then, Jessie actually utilized Wobbuffet for the first time all Hoenn. It actually did something aside from just fucking being an annoying bastard and pop out of his Pokeball. Jessie had to use Mirror Coat to deflect the Icy Wind back at Ash and the gang, hitting them with it, along with Nurse Joy as well. And with Ash and the gang distracted by this attack, Team Rocket took the opportunity to fly away in their Meowth balloon, cheering, because even though they didn't have Snowrunt, they had who they really wanted, Pikachu still. Ash refused to let Team Rocket escape with Pikachu, so he declared that it was time for him, his friends, and Nurse Joy to get on some snowmobiles and chase after Team Rocket in their balloon, and they did so. Anyways, Team Rocket in the Meowth balloon was cheering even more, with Jessie congratulating Wobbuffet on actually doing something useful, and Team Rocket basically bragging about how they had actually managed to capture Pikachu and all that shit, and stated how rich they were going to be after they gave Pikachu to Giovanni and got a whole bunch of promotions and just extra cash because Giovanni would love Pikachu so much, and Meowth knew that this was possible, so he didn't even have to go into a fucking boss fantasy to fantasize about it. But as Team Rocket was happily talking about all this, they then noticed, much to their dismay, Ash and the gang following them along with Nurse Joy and Snowrun on 2 snowmobiles, with May, Max, and Brock on one, and Ash, Nurse Joy, and Snowrun on the other. As Team Rocket sees the snowmobiles speeding towards them, they get mad and angrily tell Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy to go the fuck away, saying that nobody liked anyone that didn't know when to quit, leading May to simply taunt them back that that's exactly why everyone hated Team Rocket, because they never quit. And this made Team Rocket depressed, and they were only more depressed when Wobbuffet suddenly jumped up and startled all of them. Although on the bright side for Team Rocket, Wobbuffet jump scaring them actually snapped them out of their depression, so not only were they no longer depressed, but they realized that they weren't flying in the Meowth balloon, so they quickly stood back up and went over to the edge of the basket, where they usually flew it. Pikachu then called out to Ash desperately, and Ash replied that he was coming for it. And Team Rocket saw that Ash and the gang definitely were coming for it, as they were very quickly catching up. So Jessie instructed Meowth to increase the burner on the Meowth balloon, and because of this, the balloon picked up speed, and Team Rocket was able to regain the lead on Ash and the gang again, going faster. Luckily though, Nurse Joy saw that Team Rocket was getting away, and revealed that she actually knew a shortcut through a nearby forest that would put them ahead of Team Rocket. So Nurse Joy sharply turned her and Ash's snowmobile that had Snowrun on it as well, and Brock, May, and Max followed, with Brock turning his snowmobile in the same direction as Joy's, and eventually Ash and the gang and Joy reach a rocky path, but this path was very bumpy, so a bump along the way manages to knock Snowrun off the snowmobile, but right before Snowrun falls off into the snow and was left behind, Ash manages to catch it, and Ash then asks if Snowrun was okay, and Snowrun nods happily as Ash puts it back on by pulling Snowrun's hand. As Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy continued chasing Team Rocket, eventually they got to an edge of a cliff, which meant that the snowmobiles couldn't go any farther, and the Meowth balloon simply floated off into the sky. Though Nurse Joy got a risky idea, as she simply sped up, driving her snowmobile straight off a little ramp that had formed from the pile of snow on the cliff, sending her snowmobile airborne. Ash knew what Nurse Joy wanted him to do, so once the snowmobile was airborne, Ash had Snowrun climb on his hand, and Ash tossed Snowrun like a ball directly at Team Rocket's balloon. Luckily, Snowrun lands directly inside the Meowth balloon's basket, and it proceeds to use Icy Wind to freeze Team Rocket into an icicle, and freeze their entire balloon as well. Since the balloon was weighed down by being a frozen icicle, it started to descend down to the ground, so Snowrun quickly went up to Pikachu, who was still captured in the box, and grabbed the box, and then jumped out of the Meowth balloon as it crashed to the ground. Though, right before the balloon crashed to the ground, Ash managed to jump off of the snowmobile, which Nurse Joy had somehow managed to reverse as soon as Snowrun was back in the Meowth balloon. So, although Snowrun went in the Meowth balloon, Ash and Nurse Joy never even went off the cliff. So, Snowrun jumped back on the cliff with Pikachu, and Ash caught it essentially. It was then that the balloon actually crashed, although Ash didn't care, as he now had Pikachu, and quickly got him out of the box as May, Brock, and Max ran up, along with Nurse Joy, to help Ash comfort Pikachu now that it was free. However, when the Meowth balloon crashed, Team Rocket had gotten buried in the snow, but they'd gotten turned back to normal, no longer ice sculptures, so they were able to quickly pop out of the snow, and they were extremely angry at the fact that their plan had been foiled. So Jessie sent out her Viper, and James sent out Cacnea, who hugged him first, prickling him as usual, in an effort to get Pikachu back. Viper and Cacnea then start off by going for a bite and knee alarm respectively, but Snowrun just uses an Icy Wind to freeze Viper and Cacnea into icicles, and then send them back, flying into Team Rocket's Meowth balloon. And then Pikachu uses a Thunderbolt to knock Cacnea and Viper into the Meowth balloon even further, which also popped the balloon, and the electricity also electrocuted Team Rocket, sending Team Rocket blasting off as Wobbuffet popped out of his Pokeball yet again, and Jessie forcibly recalled it. With Team Rocket gone, Ash and the gang got back to what they were doing before, which was trying to get Snowrun to give Ash his badges back, as Nurse Joy told Snowrun that it was time to give Ash his badge case back now. Snowrun nodded, indicating that it understood this, although it was still hesitant to give the badges back. Although Ash tried to convince it to by saying that he really needed the badges and he had to get going, which just led Snowrun to begin tugging on Ash's coat. Ash and the gang wondered why Snowrun was tugging on Ash all of a sudden, with May suggesting that maybe Snowrun liked Ash, and Nurse Joy confirmed this, stating that it seemed as though Snowrun was tugging on Ash, trying to get him to stay longer after hearing that he was leaving soon, and came to the conclusion that maybe Snowrun didn't really care about the badges, but it just didn't want to give them back to Ash, because if it did, then Ash would leave, and he wouldn't be able to pull pranks on him anymore, or play with him anymore, which was what he wanted to do. Nurse Joy then ends her explanation by saying that Snowrun would be extremely sad to see Ash go, leading May to suggest that maybe Ash and Snowrun didn't have to separate, even though Ash had to continue on his journey, suggesting that Ash catch Snowrun and add it to his permanent team. Ash liked this idea, so he personally invited Snowrun to join his team and come with him. Max and Brock thought that Snowrun could come along as well, and Snowrun nodded, seeming happy to come along with Ash, although it then jumped away, getting into a battle-ready pose, confusing Ash as he wondered what Snowrun was up to, leading Brock to state that he'd come to the conclusion that Snowrun wanted to battle Ash first to test his strength, reasoning that Snowrun only wanted to go with a strong trainer. Ash was more than willing to take up the challenge, saying that if Snorunt wanted to see if Ash had the strength to catch it and the right to catch it, then he would prove to Snorunt that he could. Very excited to battle, as Ash opened up the battle by having Pikachu use Iron Tail. Although Pikachu couldn't get the Iron Tail off, since it took a while for it to focus on it, and then Snorunt had used Double Team to make it even harder for Pikachu to get the attack off, as Snorunt copies filled the area and surrounded Pikachu, and Pikachu was very confused by all these Snowrunts, not able to find the real one, and since Pikachu was confused, the real Snorunt revealed itself, taking the opportunity to headbutt Pikachu, who was very distracted. And Snorunt then used Double Team again to create even more illusions, and surrounded Pikachu with them again. Ash was wondering what to do at this point, as there were so many copies surrounding Pikachu, and Pikachu was just forced to dodge more and more headbutts from the real Snorunt, who kept getting rid of its copies, revealing itself, trying to hit Pikachu, failing, so creating more copies, and repeating the process again and again and again. Though suddenly, Ash came up with a strategy, telling Pikachu to use Iron Tail on the ground, and this caused snow to fly everywhere, which got rid of the copies, since they were basically just made out of thin air, not anything. So this revealed the location of the real Snorunt, so it allowed Pikachu to really damage Snorunt with a quick attack, pushing it far back. With Snorunt relatively weakened by the quick attack, Pikachu then damaged Snorunt even more with a Thunderbolt, causing Snorunt to fly back and hit the ground. And when it hit the ground, the badge case flew out of Snorunt's little pouch on the ground itself. And since Snorunt was now weakened enough, Ash took his chance that he saw and threw a Pokeball. And it absorbs Snorunt's energy, and the Pokeball shakes for a few seconds, and Ash and the gang, Nurse Joy, and Pikachu watch anxiously until Snorunt was in fact caught, leading Ash to cheer along with everyone else, as Ash does his signature pose whenever he caught a new team member, and he happily grabs his badge case from the ground, and places his stone badge and knuckle badge back in it with the rest of the badges. And later, Ash and the gang and Nurse Joy had returned to the Pokemon Center, and Ash gave Snorunt's Pokeball to Nurse Joy so that Nurse Joy could heal Snorunt up after the battle, and then once Snorunt was all healed, she gave Snorunt back to Ash. Ash then decided to send Snorunt out so that it could meet all of the gang's other Pokemon that it hadn't met yet, because it had only met Pikachu and Corphish. So Ash sends Corphish back out, along with his Grovyle, Torkoal, and Swellow, and Ash's friends send out their Pokemon as well, with Brock sending out Fortress Mudkip and Ludicolo, and May sending out Bulbasaur, Combusken, Beautyfly, and Skitty. All of the gang's Pokemon, including Ash's other Pokemon, just stare at each other for a while, not knowing how they were supposed to react to this Snorunt, thinking it was maybe a wild one, although Ash then introduced Snorunt to the rest of the Pokemon, explaining that it was now going to be a new member of the gang, and following this, all of the Pokemon gratefully accepted Snorunt into the gang, greeting it happily, as Snorunt greeted them back, happy as well to have a new family. Corphish remembered how Snorunt was basically an enemy before, so he felt the need to make up to it for, the drama that they had earlier, and Snorunt seemed to be a bit frightened of Corphish still, as he used an Icy Wind to freeze it. Although Snorunt simply laughed after this, revealing that it was probably just another prank by it. It wasn't really mad at Corphish still or anything like that. May, not wanting Corphish to die from being frozen, instructs her Combusken to unthaw Corphish by using a fire spin, and as a result of this, Corphish was almost knocked out and burnt, smoking, because of the immense fire. Ash asked if Corphish was okay, and Corphish then collapses as Snorunt jumps around laughing, confirming to Ash and the gang that Snorunt still had that prankster personality, and that was the entire reason why it tried to freeze Corphish in the first place. Joy stated that she obviously had another Pokemon to heal, and grabbed Corphish and took it into the ER, as Brock, May, and Max all laughed nervously, worried that Snorunt's prankster activities would interfere with their journey a little bit, although Ash was confident that he could get rid of Snorunt's prankster nature by teaching it about acceptable behavior and manners, as he sat down to have a talk with it, saying that it shouldn't try and harm his Pokemon. Although Snorunt still laughs after this talk, so I'd wager Snorunt will probably still do at least a little bit of pranking as the episodes go on. Hey, at least Ash caught a new Pokemon this episode. It wasn't a filler.